Adventure Vehicle Reviews has seized the opportunity to test a vehicle that's name calls to our nonconformist spirit and outward looks that tempt man to take a more dangerous road. Factory equipped with 33-inch off-road tires, bold, in-your-face looks, and a 395 horsepower engine, it would seem this Ram Rebel was born ready for a rigorous AVR adventure.
Hi, I'm Alan Butler, this is Devin Schmidt, and that's Tim Dunlap, and this is Adventure Vehicle Reviews. On this adventure, we're taking this 2017 Ram Rebel on a 3-day hunting trip across all types of terrain and obstacles. It should be pretty awesome. What are we going to be hunting, Devin?
Coyotes. We're going to go out and get them. And around this area, they're real plentiful. But before we can get them, got to make sure we can hit them. We got to zero them rifles. The first morning, we were asked by a local rancher to help protect his calves from a persistent coyote problem. Here we decided to take to the trees in order to have a better vantage point for our hunt. Doing something we've never seen in hunting before, I had the Ram Rebel lift Alan up into the tree by way of climbing rope and a simple pulley system. After Alan and Tim were set in their improvised tree stand, I drove the truck to a different location where I was able to get some one-on-one time with the Rebel. I stepped outside the Rebel and watched the country sunrise unfold against the bold flame red paint job. This truck looked ready for adventure and the rough stuff. But the question still lured. Could it perform as good as it looked? After drooling over the Rebel, I felt the cold morning air pinching at my fingers. I jumped back into the Rebel, and knowing that my friends were freezing in the stand, I turned on the warm heated seats and heater without a bit of guilt.
Well, here we are. We're up in the stand. You can hear the call going behind us. It's a beautiful morning. It's a light mist on the ground, so it's nice to be above the ground about, 20, 30 feet. And we'll see if we call in a coyote. It was nice having the truck here to help make the lift into the tree a little bit easier, so that worked out pretty well. So we'll get back to the hunt now.
While we had fun setting up the tree stand, it was ultimately unsuccessful. We loaded in the truck and attempted 3 more coyote stands, using the Rebel as a primary mode of transportation. Once the afternoon hit, we decided to switch gears and canvass the area for a possible evening hunt. Of course, when I say canvass the area, I really mean to say we just mashed the gas pedal to the floor and hoped for the best. So far, the Rebel was performing well on these dirt fire roads.
Now we're going up this fire road. It's on the rougher side of fire roads, as the fire roads go, I guess, but nonetheless, we have the suspension in normal mode right now, so it's not at its highest setting, which is off-road mode. And I just kind of want to see what the truck feels like in probably the most common terrain it's going to be in, fire roads. For those people that just want to go backpacking or hunting and they're not going to go way off into the deep forest and down some really hardcore, expert, difficult rated trail or anything like that, this is where it's at. So for me, the suspension feels pretty solid. I'm not hearing a lot of rattles or anything, or any rattles at all. The steering wheel feels good in my hand. It's not trying to jar out of my hand with any of these little bumps. So everything's pretty tight. The air ride suspension feels pretty good. If we aired down the tires a little bit, these big Toyos would actually give us a lot more cushion.
Since fire roads can get boring, I began to look for something a little more exciting. We got lucky and found a modest bump in the road that might serve well as a jump. Devin put his piloting skills to use, and he was the first to attempt the jump. He put the Rebel in 4-wheel drive, accelerated, and was able to get the Rebel airborne. Best of all, the landing was surprisingly smooth on the truck's air ride suspension. We were pushing the Rebel pretty good on the ranch's fire roads, But before the day ended, I wanted to hit up some of the mountain's paved roads so I could get a real feel of the Rebel's on-road characteristics. While traveling down the curvy mountain road, I noticed the Rebel's on-road manners were especially pleasing. I mean, this truck rode like a dream on the pavement. The air ride suspension and somewhat new 5-link coil rear suspension put this truck ahead of the pack in regards to on-road manners and overall comfort. Basically, this is not your daddy's pickup truck. The more I drove the truck through the curves, the more impressed I became with it. You see, I realized that despite the 33-inch tires with an aggressive tread pattern, this rig still had strong brakes with a predictable and linear feel. Furthermore, these tires did not produce that annoying highway drone common with large off-road tires. Steering, while a little slow, was not sloppy, and the leather-wrapped steering wheel added to a feeling of comfort and control. As trucks go, this one's pretty quick. The 395 horsepower engine moves this beast along no problem. So don't worry, blowing the doors off some slow-moving cell phone zombie should be a non-issue. Once the Rebel's speed gets around 62 miles per hour, the truck automatically lowers into its aero mode. This is supposed to aid with fuel economy. And since I brought it up, let's talk about fuel economy in a 5.7-liter V8 truck for those that care. EPA places this 4x4 truck at 22 highway, 15 city, and 17 combined. The 8-speed transmission is the real reason why this big truck can get 22 mpgs or better on the highway. And other than the silly shift knob, the 8-speed transmission performed flawlessly when transferring power both on and off-road. Dusk was approaching. It was time to set up stands for our evening hunt. While sitting in the stand, I was able to take in the beauty of this cattle ranch, which was absolutely picturesque. And so sadly the sun had set and day one had come to a close. It was now off to our second location, where we ended up having to do a little night off-road driving until we found a suitable place to sleep for the night.
Here we are, end of day one. We were up in the mountains all day. From the very early morning to the evening stands that we did, trying to find those coyotes. Ram Rebel took us a lot of miles on the dirt, but I'm gonna say this, it did really, really well on the dirt this time. But tomorrow and the following day, it's gonna get even more increased challenges as the days go on. So tomorrow's gonna be a lot of hills, some slow crawly type things, and we're gonna still continue to look for these coyotes.
The morning light had finally broken through the pitch black darkness of the night. I woke up surprisingly rested despite having slept in the driver's seat. Devin and Tim slept a little more comfortable with the hammocks they secured to a tree and to each corner of the truck. We cleaned ourselves and the camp up, made some coffee, and headed out to the first stand. We didn't know it yet, but day 2 was going to be the most challenging day of our trip. Gone were the fire roads we encountered on day 1. All throughout the day, we hunted and explored this area, which had an endless amount of hills, loose rocky roads, small streams, and plenty of heat.
That was a really good stand, man.
That was a good stand. It was a good way to start the morning for sure.
Would have been a better stand had a dog come in.
Yep, for sure. Well, we are back in the Rebel, and we're kind of skirting this ridge line. We're going to move to a spot across a small river, so we probably have to do a little water crossing here. But before we do that, we got to go down a pretty, fairly big hill. Now, this Ram Rebel doesn't have hill descent control. So it's going to be all about the low gearing. I'm going to keep it in 4-wheel low. Light on the brakes, keep the wheels pointed straight downhill, and help me out, Devin. Where's the trail?
It's going to be a little forward here.
Okay.
And, yep, you see it?
Yep, I got it.
There you go. Would be nice to have a camera on the front end.
Yeah, they all would.
As we descended this hill, I felt it would have been nice to have hill descent control on this Rebel. As much as I tried to avoid it, the brakes would lock up and the truck would go into a short skid until I lifted the brake pressure and allowed some rolling friction to return. It's a careful balancing act. one that a programmed hill descent control could do a much better job of. This is mainly because hill descent control can control each individual wheel. We all took note of the precarious descent and decided to try our hand at some bigger and steeper hills. This hill here was one of our most challenging of the day.
All right, still going up this hill. Got a steady incline here. Going over some boulders, and it doesn't feel like we're going over what we're going over. Suspension's pretty...
It's pretty growing over. I mean, the whole trail's got like grass on it and stuff. We had a lot of rain out here recently, but she's eating it right up. These Toyo all-terrains, they're doing a great job on this trail.
Yeah, I don't feel a lack of traction at all. I'm just keeping it steady, and we're just going right up.
Tim, I noticed you like to drive in the off-road mode. I kind of prefer the normal mode. I get a little bit more cushion in the suspension, but every time you get behind the wheel and we're creeping and crawling, you feel like off-road mode. Why is that?
I like the way off-road mode feels. It feels
like the stiffness.
It's pretty stiff. It's noticeably stiffer than the normal mode, but I like the stiffness. It feels very sensitive, and I can feel the rocks under the truck, and that, to me, gives me better control and makes me feel what's happening under the vehicle.
I guess there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
that's just what I feel.
That's pretty insightful, though. I mean, I like that. I think that's cool. Because we're bouncing right now. We're in off-road mode, so the suspension's a little bit stiffer.
We're off-road.
But you know what you're going over.
We're kind of in a little rut. We're kind of off camber here, but
if anything, it makes you go a little bit slower, which is there's nothing wrong with that. That's a pretty good hill. All right, we're gonna go up this and see what it's all about. Hopefully it all works out. We're in off-road mode, the highest suspension setting. We're in four-wheel low. This doesn't have any lockers on it. All it has is an anti-spin differential. So let's see if that's gonna hurt us at all. Up we go. So far so good, good traction. I like this leather steering wheel. It's nice and smooth. It slides through your hands as you shuffle steer. All right, now we're going. We're really digging in it now. We're really digging in it now. Okay, we're gonna pause real quick. Probably about 30 feet of some pretty significant rock here. It's all broken up. It's gonna be kind of loose at this point. I can see how there's a lot of little rocks, so we'll see how traction does for us. We're gonna need all the traction we could possibly get to get up this. It's fairly steep. So here we go. I don't like this at all.